but for a salvage yard or dismantling.
Well, like I said, I believe if your collection was, in my eyes, something of more discernible values, such as brand new automobiles, it would still be inappropriate for the area. My concern would be, could I see 5 more out there of big blocked off areas filled with cars, 2 feet apart, stretched out over 10 acres. And I can't see those.
As we stated earlier, I think we need to deal with the future and not so much in the past. So I think our dad and the rest of the crew will go ahead and address what we have and see where we can go.
Let's hope that we can work something out for Mr. McDowell and be able to live with it.
Mr. Chairman, that's where I'm going now. What I don't want to see, if we get this on the books and get going, you won't have this problem again of all of a sudden 50 cars show up across the road from somebody from any citizen.
We can move on them immediately.
Right. It's just you'll have it on the books. If you think you want this, you got to come and get a conditional use permit. One of the things that a conditional use permit, or an urban ag, let me go back, but an auto reduction or recycling center, auto repair station, auto service station, auto record service, those are all permitted with a conditional use permit in urban ag.
But you also have...
By this language, by defining a collector car as a reduction yard, recycling, and business of dismantling, we have defined that is a permitted use within UA and RAM.
Did you look at this, the language down here? It says requires a conditional use permit to be obtained.
And I'm saying, as a member of the county commissioners, I don't want a reduction yard, a recycling yard, a dismantling business in UA and RAM. Right now, that's exactly the way it is. You cannot have those facilities in RAM and UA, and I don't want them to be permitted in the future to have them in RAM and UA. They belong in LI and light and heavy industrial areas. So, it's just saying, it's not even going to be a consideration. It doesn't make sense to take some of these car lots and turn them into wrecking yards.
Well, then, in the difference to what you just got through saying, you're going to have to take out requiring a conditional use permit, because that could occur. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that if they come for a conditional use permit, they're more than likely going to get turned down.
Go ahead.
I can see this just perpetuating. It's like if I own a ranch, and my dad farmed it, and his dad farmed it for years and years and years, and then it comes down to me, and that sort of thing. And if what my father was doing is in violation of the codes by the county commission, then I would apply for the same kind of violation, actually, as he
wouldn't get it.
I wouldn't get it.
Well, no, I'm saying if the original permit holder has a conditional use permit and passes away, it's not going to go to his son or anybody else. And if there's violations on it, the new ones will apply for it and won't get it.
Your words should be put down.
You're making a plan to reduce those total number of vehicles within a specified time.
Any argument with that?
I don't mind the commissioners having the right to refuse the conditional use permit at any time from the owner, but to say that I'm going to have by a certain period of time down to 4 or less, I think is a restriction of business, if that's what we're in. And I think we need to stop. I think if you're going to approve it for 50 cars or 20 cars or something, you should be able to live with that and not force whoever it is. It's not going to be me, but force whoever it is to get down to 4 where you're not having to give them a conditional use permit. So part of it I agree with, the other part I don't.
Okay.
It's not a business.
Go ahead.
That was the whole thing. It's not a business. It's private. It's private.
And I mean for private.
I will go back. I kind of threw that out earlier. We've heard a lot of commentary about
the real issue is the county didn't enforce regulations that were in place, and so this is true. And I see it as members of the commission, fellow commissioners, as attempting to give recognition that this got out of control, and prior commissioners or what have you didn't enforce zoning. But I think they also recognize that there was a real reason for not having car storage facilities in where they are around the county. And we'd like to get back to that. That original zoning made sense. And so I think the language that Tom has inserted here, and my personal preference is we have an understanding that this is not going to be a forever event. That you're going to understand that we're giving you time, we're working with those people that are in current violations of existing zoning regulations and have been in violations all the way along. This is truly saying we're going to work with you and allow you to work yourself out of the situation that you are currently in to get you back to where we were. This is all collector cars, all private activities.
I misspoke when I said business, but I said the idea that you're going to want everybody down to 4 or less by X date in the future may be unattainable in any time frame that we talk about, and I think that's an unusual restriction. I have no problem with rescinding it, but I have a problem with telling somebody that you've approved me now. Let's just let me give you some examples. You approved me for 20 cars on my property. Then you're going to turn around and you're going to tell me in X number of years you got to get down to 4. Now, these collector cars increase in value as time goes along, and it takes time to restore them. I'm in the restoration business, and I know how long it takes to restore them and how hard it is to get parts. I think that's untenable, and I think that's an unnecessary restriction on the property owner once you've already approved it.
Mr. Chairman, number 2, when you read number 2, did we including buying, selling, dealing in such collector cars? That isn't there.
That's out.
Well, when we went through this, if you expect them to reduce those over time or reduce the size of them, they need to keep them the same, but if they're going to reduce them, they've got to have an avenue in which to do that.
So you're going to get rid of the word buying, but leave the selling in there?
Well, I mean, they got to deal in those cars to reduce it, or whatever. So
we put for private use.
We put for private use, but still, for private use, you've got to. They're going to trade or do something, so you need to have some wiggle room there.
You talked about that they don't need your permission to buy or sell.
Yeah, that's fine, but as long as we're okay with that, because that ultimately that's what they've collected them for. Whether they do it for themselves or they collect them for somebody else, they need the flexibility to do it.
Before the conditional use permit can be approved, screening shall be maintained by the conditional use permit holder throughout the term of the conditional use permit. Screening may be accomplished with fences, trees, berms, by locating accumulations behind buildings or topographical features, or by other means approved by the Natrona County Development Department. And we fought this one out for quite a while. I think we got it started.
And maintaining.
Maintained.
Yeah, should we put maintained?
It's in there.
Yeah,
I
see it.
The conditional use permit will be limited to the number of collector cars located on the property at the time the conditional use permit is granted, or a number of collector cars approved by the Board of County Commissioners of Natrona County. And these were not going to grow. So some of these yards that are illegal. So, weed control and vermin control in collector car accumulation shall be a priority to landowners, which I think they will.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I had thought about, and I've inserted another provision under the conditional use permit. I'll read it first so you can digest it. Said conditional use permit will include a plan to reduce the number of collector cars to 4 or less within a specified time. And then failure to comply with terms of the CUP, the conditional use permit, may at the option of the Board of County Commissioners be revoked.
get it in, please.
I will, and then I'll explain where I was coming from.
Okay.
Said conditional, this would be H. Said conditional use permit will include a plan to reduce the number of collector cars to 4 or less within a specified time. Failure to comply with terms of a CU, of conditional use permit, may at the option of the Board of County Commissioners be revoked. Where I was coming from this was, you're granting this conditional use permit for, it's taking the place of grandfathering, basically. What we're doing is everybody's going to have a conditional use permit. And in that plan, if you have 300 vehicles or whatever, before we grant that, you're going to have to agree you're going to have no more than that. And I would like to see something through in that says you will make a plan to reduce those total number of vehicles within a specified time. I mean,
Obviously, we've discussed this screening issue numerous times on the 4 vehicles, and I just want to again point out that, from the perspective of enforcement and the objectivity, it was our recommendation that we do not require screening on the 4. One of the reasons that we want to if you're going to have 4, then we're requiring that they're maintained and stored in a manner off the ground so that it doesn't create a haven for rats, mice, vermin, and those type of things. And if these properties are screened, we're not going to be able to we don't have any way to go on those properties and look behind the screening to see that the properties are maintained. So if someone has 4 and that's allowed, and we can drive down the road and we can see those 4 and see that they're maintained in a manner free of weed, brush, other debris, and up off the ground, then we can inspect that from the highway, so to speak, or from the county road without having to go on. Obviously, where a conditional use permit is in effect, part of that language will be that we have a right to come in and inspect those properties. So from an enforcement perspective, that was one of the reasons that we had recommending a no screening requirement on the 4, because if you allow screening and you can't see, who knows how when 4 turns into 24, and then we get other things out there that are in there and there's not mowing, and we don't have access for emergency vehicles and things like that. So that's the background of why our recommendation was not to require screening on the 4.
And the state allows 4.
They do.
It's 4 vehicles, right?
The state allows up to 4.
Okay.
Without, but of course, we're about change that. But we're not talking about cars we're talking about cars that are stored for this collector purposes. We're not talking about the car that you drive. We're talking that are even used occasionally. We're talking about cars that are stored for historical value and economic value.
All right, so what if we put it here, accumulations up to 4 collector cars are allowed on properties in all county zoning districts if they are screened or fenced? That shouldn't be a lot of expense to anybody.
I agree with that.
I agree.
No? Okay?
Yep.
Screen or...
Do we want RAM and UA still in there?
Are you gonna get specific about the fencing?
Well, they got to come in and get their conditional use permit, and that's probably one of the things we'll work out.
No, this you don't get a conditional use.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So yes, at some point we're going to have to come up with a definition of appropriate screening. Who's first? Go ahead, Mr.